Hi there, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast. The independent Rangers podcast is brought to you by fans for fans, and where the content is absolutely free. It is a preview episode of the Gersnet Podcast. Today we're looking at tomorrow's game against St Johnstone at Ibrox. I'm your host today, Colin Armstrong. We're coming a wee bit earlier than normal because of various people's commitments and what they can and cannot do. So we're coming a wee bit earlier tonight at 5:30 when it is absolutely roasting. I have to say, I am sitting here sweating buckets. But hey ho. Anyway, guys, as I say every week, it's not just a pod that we bring to you here in Gersnet. We've also got the website, obviously. There's the forums on the website, articles, there's a history archive, all that kind of stuff, so get yourself on that. We'd always ask you to promote the pod as well and subscribe to the YouTube channel, obviously. Before I go on, I'll need to bring in one of our partners here at Gersnet, which is Zenith Coins. They produce the official Rangers Club coin. Each gold-plated coin has a unique serial number engraved on the outer rim and comes complete with a Rangers presentation box and a certificate of authenticity. There are a rake of famous supporters who own one of these collections, including Alan McCoy, St Johnstone, Marvin Andrews, Tom Stoltman and Gordon Ramsay. Zenith have also produced the 150th anniversary collection, which is a limited edition set. There's only 1,872 of these worldwide. They're being released in small batches and they encompass 5 iconic milestones in the club's history, including the Founding Fathers, Ibrox Stadium, the Cup Winners' Cup win in 72, 9 in a row, and 55 league titles. As you can tell, I am sweating buckets here. I'm running out of breath. More information is available at www.zenithcoins.com. So now to bring in my guest, who I've not spoken to for a while, actually. I don't think I've spoken to you since the eve of Seville when we went for a couple of pints in Glasgow that night. It's Sean McCallum. How are you, John?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad, thanks. It's a lovely day through in Glasgow as well. So
you sitting stewing tea?
I've come inside. I've had to come inside. I don't think the neighbours would appreciate this too much, so I've come inside, and it's still. Well, you'd rather this than,
Yeah, I know.
We'll be doing it in most Sunday nights or Friday nights from now on. But we're not built for this. We're not designed for this. I don't think this is not weather we're designed for.
No, and certainly, like when you're abroad and all that, because people will say, well, it's okay when you're abroad. It's okay when you're abroad because they're used to it and they've got things like, air conditioning and stuff like that.
Houses that don't have walls that are that thick with insulation.
I feel like I'm sitting in a greenhouse at the moment. It is literally getting worse by the second. But hey ho, we'll struggle on through, I suppose.
See the things we do for people.
I know. So unappreciated, Teja. You know what I mean? So unappreciated. But before I get in about it, did you enjoy last night, Dundee United's escapades?
I mean, it's funny. There was
that's the main thing. It's fucking funny.
There was a guy on Twitter earlier.
Is his name Jim Spence? Because he's been even funnier.
No, he's been good. I was saying to Ian Duff of this parish earlier, I mean, I actually thought that Jim Spence account was a parody. I genuinely thought it was a parody, and then I realised that actually is him. And he is the most provincial, parochial man in the entire world. It's astonishing. But there was a guy on Twitter, and I wish I could remember who it was because you would give him credit. And he said, I've named my wife Dundee United because she kicks off every 10 minutes. I've never heard before. I thought it was a cracker.
I like that.
Aside from the comedy, it's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. To lose 7-0, AZ Alkmaar will be a decent team. No disgrace losing 3-0, maybe 4 where you're pushing to try and get a goal back or something. 7-0 is an absolute doing. There were 5-0 at half time.
Was it 5 goals in 15 minutes or something?
Something mental like that. Fair enough if it was Real Madrid or something, but I don't know.
AZ Alkmaar.
At some point, and I know we're not going to talk about it tonight, but I assume we're going to talk about it on Sunday at some point in the near future. There's this talk of this new TV deal, which actually, when you look at it, you realise is a worse deal than the one they've already got. And you realise just how far most of Scottish football has now fallen, where, that 7-0, that was the scores that teams from Malta used to get. Not teams from Scotland. And 7-0, Motherwell's defeat to Sligo Rovers. Irish football has improved. Most of the teams in the Irish League are now full-time. They've gone to summer football, so they're in the middle of the season. I get all that. But Motherwell should still be beating Sligo Rovers. Over 2 legs, Motherwell should be beating Sligo Rovers. And it shows you 2 things. A, how far Scottish football has fallen, and at some point somebody has to arrest that and decide to make changes to improve it. and B, just what we achieved last season. You know, when you look at how badly all the other teams are doing in Europe and European competition, you realise just what we achieved last season. I mean, we all knew it was historic, but you know, in '72, Scottish teams were doing very well in European football. You know, and you know, even in the '80s, Scottish teams were reaching finals, were winning tournaments. But these days we can't even qualify for the third tournament, and we get humiliated. And you know, credit to that team and credit to those players for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the game last night. It was my daughter's birthday, so we were having a barbecue. My mate was texting me, and it was literally the phone was going every like 5 minutes. You know, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5. I was just pissing myself laughing. But the best thing about this, I think, is, you know, Rangers been so good in Europe. You know, not just last year, over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. You know, we've been really consistent in Europe, and we've really done so well that the coefficient is really high. We've exposed, you know, a couple of clubs who voted no to Newco to a couple of absolute ridings in Europe, you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm all up for that.
Still, I saw a thing earlier, I didn't realise they'd done this, they brought out a print, didn't they? Brought out a print of the team from last week. You know, they beat a kind of, you know, mid-table Dutch team in the home leg, and they brought out a print for it, so I think, well, that's it's probably not going to sell a lot, I don't think.
No, anyway. Definitely not. I wouldn't have sold a lot anyway, but certainly not now. There was a lassie, she was on Twitter the other day, and it was some t-shirt, it was like United on tour. You know what I mean? I was like, you sure? Normally a tour involves more than one trip, you know what I mean? But anyway, we'll move on to our own sort of European adventures this week.
Nice segue, Colin, nice segue.
Yeah, I know. Did you like that?
You've been doing this.
That was almost semi-professional, John. So, the USG game, I wasn't there. My son had another game, so he's sort of been playing a lot of games recently that I've had to attend, so I couldn't make the game. I might not be at the game tomorrow for the same reason. We're waiting on word as to whether he's in the squad or not. So, history sort of defining moment. You know, Rangers never overturned a 2-0 first leg deficit before. I would say not a perfect performance, but definitely a far superior one to the one that was inflicted upon us the previous week. Great result and recovery, you know, and it's all to play for now against PSG, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about the result, because I agree with you. I didn't think the performance. Well, you don't want to be too critical, but it certainly wasn't of the level that we saw last season in Europe.
No.
Certainly not the second half of last season in Europe. So we haven't reached those heights yet. You know, I think everybody agreed in the first leg that we were really poor. And so it was actually hard to gauge how good a team they were. You know, I think I spoke to a few people who said, you know, they're maybe a better team than people thought. And then I spoke to a few other people who said, we just made them look good. I think you saw in that game that, yes, we did make them look good the time before. I also think, you know, not taking anything away from them, but we got lucky. You know, we got the breaks. The third goal, what was the goalie doing? You know, it was, I don't know what he was thinking. You know, the first goal, you know, the guy had been watching Anton Rogan videos clearly before coming to Ibrox. I mean, that was just a bizarre thing to do. So I think we got some breaks, but, you know, we deserved to win. You know, we were the better team. We controlled the match. It was a very different performance from the week before. Still, as I said, a wee bit or a long way short of what we know we can do. You know, nothing close to some of the performances we put in last season. And I think, personally speaking, I think a wee bit short of where we'll need to beat PSV. But what I'm hoping is that we'll continue progressing as we play more games. You know, that's what our third competitive match. You know, we should be hitting something close to form, you know, in our fourth, then fifth game. You know, so these games should be coming at the right time. I also think it was funny looking at the team, you realise actually there has been some changes, hasn't there? You know, there's a lot of new players in that team. Well, not a lot, but some new players in that team. So I suppose that does take a wee bit of time for folk to kind of gel and just understand where things are. But I'm being critical, and I'm maybe being a bit overcritical because it was a fantastic result. I'll be honest, not a result I was necessarily expecting.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either as well.
I did think it might just be a bit too far for us. and it wasn't, and that's fantastic. And let's see what happens next. So, but a great result, a result that I didn't see coming, but one that I think we can all enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, we got the breaks, Tav with the penalty. Good to see Cholak getting another goal. I thought, it's for someone that's getting so much criticism. He's scoring. He's scoring pretty much every game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand the criticism. Do you?
No, neither do I. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's not Morelos. He's a different type of player. Obviously, he's not Morelos. You look at his career. He's not been a guy who's played at a fantastically high level before coming here. But he's come as our third choice striker. And he's come in and he's doing a job, and at least he is a striker. We're not having to play a midfielder or a wide player out of position. At least he is a striker.
I think he's a penalty box striker. I think that's the problem. Well, I think we weren't delivering the service that I think we've maybe become so used to Morelos being able to drop deep and drag players out of position and stuff like that. But we're just no used to an actual poacher, someone who wants the ball in the box. Give me the ball in the box and I'll score.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I liked about his goal. That's a striker. That's a striker being in the right place at the right time, following up, and just being there. And every goal counts, whether you hit it from 30 yards or knock it in from 2. They all count the same.
Yeah.
That's maybe something that's been missing from our game as a forward in there. So, yeah, I'm a wee bit puzzled at the criticism he's taken as well. I don't really feel it's been justified. It's far too early to judge the guy. And I say this as a man who thought Mark Hateley was an absolute coup for 6 months.
He was, though. I mean, and his comments were a bit unnecessary as well, by the way. He didn't need to get involved, did he? These sort of the comments that he made.
I missed them, but you learn your lesson.
Yeah, well,
with some guys,
someone that went through the same thing himself. A bit longer. Aye. You know what I mean? He must have, of all the previous strikers at Ibers, he must realise that slow starts can happen. You know what I mean?
100%. And so let's see. I will see. I mean, I expect once Morelos is fit that Cholak probably won't be, starting games. I suppose it depends on the opposition and the tactics, but I wouldn't expect him to be. I think once Morelos is fit, Morelos will be our first choice centre forward. I think if Roof ever gets fit, I think he's our second choice centre forward. So let's see how he does. If he's in the team and he's scoring goals, it makes it hard to drop.
Another wee McLaughlin moment. I don't want to, pile pressure on the guy, but a really short pass to Sands. It nearly got Sands into a bit of bother. I think it was looking like at one point the ref was considering sending him off. Bizarrely, it was a strange one. I think the linesman sort of sorted that out. But that's a couple of wee moments now, and that's an area of his game, John McLaughlin, that he's, people say that he's stronger than McGregor with the ball at his feet and stuff like that. And that's a couple of mistakes now, with pass backs. It's put a bit of pressure on the defence and stuff like that. So, again, no one to heap the pressure on him and be too critical, but something he needs to sort out, obviously.
Yeah, McLaughlin wasn't brought up playing that type of football. This is something that's evolved over the last kind of 10 years. And him and McGregor, and I think most goalkeepers are having to adapt to this, suddenly playing as they're almost having to play this Alan Hansen role, stroking the ball around their own box. Managers will be watching that. Players will be watching that and realising, right, close them down, force them into an error. Gerrard before and Van Bronckhorst clearly feel that's how you play football now, and you keep doing it. Don't just punt it. McLaughlin's a funny one because I think a lot of Rangers supporters wanted McLaughlin in last season because McGregor is weak at crosses. And teams had realised this, and there was a number of occasions I think we all agree where McGregor should have been stronger commanding certainly a 6-yard box when he didn't, but he stayed in his line. And McLaughlin's better at that. I think McLaughlin does come for crosses. I think McLaughlin is a better keeper from that way. I don't think he's as good a shot stopper as McGregor. And, he's... And
I don't think he's got that wonder save in him either.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. If he did, he wouldn't have been in our reserve team. He would have been in the team before he got in. But one thing Rangers do have, and they've had this for a while, is the ability to turn good goalkeepers into great goalkeepers. There is I don't know if it's a goalkeeping culture that's at the club, if it's something that just comes from growing into that jersey. But we have taken some good goalkeepers and made them great goalkeepers over the years. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen with McGregor. I'm hoping that he can. With McLaughlin. I'm hoping that he can grow into that jersey. He's not actually played. He's been at the club a long time, but he's not played that many first team games. I think if he can get a run of half a dozen, 10 games, that's when you judge him. It was a concern, and you can guarantee the PSV Eindhoven, far less than St Johnstone centre forwards have seen that and know, right, put the pressure on. We just got to deal with it. I certainly wouldn't be dropping him. I still think he deserves his place in the team.
Yeah. I think given, the amount of points that McGregor shipped last season, I do actually think we're in new goalkeeper territory at this moment. It's maybe the case that I just wonder if we're looking at a keeper further on down the line, if you know what I mean. They've looked at various positions this season and thought, right, we're happy with that. Can't afford a new goalkeeper at the moment. We'll look at that next year. Yeah. Unless McLaughlin goes on to have a great season, obviously. But my concern is with McLaughlin, I think he's a really good keeper. I agree with everything you say, and especially, he's good at commanding his box, which McGregor obviously isn't. But he just doesn't have that great save in him, if you know what I mean. And that's what worries me a wee bit about him. But time will tell. Anyway, on to Tuesday night, John, PSV. We've got a great record against them. There was that famous victory over in Eindhoven in 78, I think it was.
Bobby
Russell scored, yeah. I actually interviewed Bobby Russell once about that.
I played football with Bobby Russell once.
Yeah, there you go. Aye, he's he's in Rangers history alone for that moment. There was that great night at Ibrox, 4-1. We absolutely ponked on Michael Moles. I could be Ibrox that night, convinced we were winning the Champions League. It was such a good performance. I think they put us out the UEFA Cup about 10 years ago. It was nothing each over there, and they beat us at Ibrox. But overall, we do have a good record against them, so it's probably tossing a coin stuff. But it's there for the take.
Yeah, I think both clubs were getting into this thinking, we can win this. It's interesting from our perspective, Colin, because we are going to be at home for the first game. So, slight change of dynamic in the tie because of that. Our away form has been poor, and I think we need to fix that. I wouldn't like to be, going over there needing to get a result, and I can't see us beating them 3-0 at Ibrox in the first leg. But who knows? It's a step up. It's a step up from the Belgians. I think the Dutch league is a step up. PSV, have some decent players. The boys at the Veerman that we were linked with, who everybody seems to say is pretty decent. There's another lad that Man United are trying to sign. Dutch football, there's always 2 or 3 guys in every team, it seems, that are moving on to better things, that great things are expected of. But, they won't fancy playing us. So it'd be interesting. I'm pleased it's PSV, to be honest. I wouldn't have fancied Monaco. I think Monaco would have been a harder tie for us, strangely enough. I'm pleased it's the Dutch. If we play to our strengths and we play as well as we know we can win this tie. But if the team that turned up in Belgium turns up, we won't. We won't. This is a strong team. PSV are a decent side. They're well organised. They've got some nice players. They play at a fairly decent level every week. They'll not be easy. I kind of hope that the fact that we've got so many Dutch guys in the coaching staff, there's maybe just that added little bit of spice. That they're quite keen to get the team. They're obviously going to be keen to qualify anyway. But the fact that they're going there back to Holland, they'll be judged by the Dutch media. There'll be a lot of interest, I suspect, because of that. That might add a little something to the tie as well. So let's see. I'm hopeful. I wouldn't say I'm confident, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it's interesting that Van Nistelrooy and Gio both played in that 99 game. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I remember that game well. It's one of my favourite nights I so it was brilliant. Looking forward to it. And it's another, we always like to tick the box. Me and my son, I've obviously seen PSV, but he's not. So it's like, he's seen Feyenoord, so with PSV, so we've only got Ajax to go, really. You know what I mean? They're the top 3. So it's always good to get those wee things out the road.
Hopefully get them in the group stages.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm all for that. Right, before we go on to talk about tomorrow's game, John, I'll mention Football Prizes, another one of our partners here. They're offering you a chance to win a Borna Barisic signed framed shirt. £3.95 per ticket. There's 199 tickets available, and the competition ends on Wednesday, the 17th of August, which, if I'm doing my maths right, is Wednesday coming. If you want to find out more about that, get yourself onto www.footballprizes.co.uk. Right, so John, on to tomorrow. Match day 3 of the St Premier League, 3 p.m. kick-off at Ibrox. As I said earlier on, I don't know if I'm going to be there yet. We're finding out if my son's playing or not. He's playing tonight, but he's been getting a nod for the first team recently. So, and it's always last minute. So I don't know what game I'm going to tomorrow. I'll either be at Ibrox or Newton Grange Star tomorrow. There you go. That's just my life these days.
The choices we face.
The choices of life. I know. It's shocking. So odds for tomorrow: Rangers are 2-11, St Johnstone 20-1, the draw 11-2. St Johnstone, they're sitting in 6th place, 2 games in, they've won 1, lost 1, beat Motherwell last week. You know, they really struggled last season. You know, they avoided relegation by the skin of their teeth. It seems to me that year on year they lose key players, and that seems to be a problem. They lose really important players and then don't replace them, and that seems to have affected them. So I think I mean, even when St Johnstone were flying high under Callum Davidson, you know, you would always expect them to come and do this sort of low block, sit in, frustrate, all that kind of thing. Given where they are over the last year or so, I think it's a certainty they're coming to do that again tomorrow.
100%. It'll be a dogged, backs to the wall. You know, it won't be pretty. There are aspects of St Johnstone that you have to admire. A small club, small budget. You know, they probably do punch above their weight, well run. But they're not pretty. You know, it's not pretty football. Certainly not against us. It's not pretty football. They're not great to watch. Last season's, it'll be interesting to see what comes, because last season they did really badly. The season before they did really well. You know, they won 2 cups. They had a great season. And you know, you have to say, okay, maybe the truth is they're somewhere between the two. You know, not as bad as last season, not as good as the season before. I mean, a lot have tipped them to go down this season, Joe. Well, I think a lot have tipped them down because of what happened the season before. Yeah. The funny thing the season before, in that they lost a couple of key players at the start of the season. They sold a couple of key players at the start of the season. They didn't replace them. They didn't replace them properly. And they then had 2 or 3, again, key players who were coming to the end of their contracts, you know, who were in the final year of their contracts last season. And I think that does make a difference to a dressing room. And I think you know, even if it's subliminal, I think it does affect a player, you know, coming to the end of their contract, particularly maybe at that level. You know, I'm just not convinced they're putting everything into every game at that level. So it's quite a new team they've got. They've got a few new fleeces. People, some of you are familiar with the guy Considine from Aberdeen. Mm-hmm. You know, he's an SPL journeyman. Yeah. You know, he knows the league. You know, he'll know the tricks. You know, he's an experienced centre half. And then they've got a young boy from Millwall, apparently, on loan. He played over 30 games in League 2 last season on loan. He's moved to St Johnstone this season on loan for the season. You know, he's meant to be half decent, 6'3". You know, a boy who defends first, I think is how I've seen him described. You know, but I suspect him and Considine together might not be the worst partnership. You know, an experienced guy and a young guy, that might not be too bad. You get Jamie Murphy in their side as well now. Jamie Murphy joined them. I don't know what Jamie Murphy's got left. You know, I don't know. You know, he was never the same player after that injury he had when he was with us. He started well at Hibs, and then it seemed to Hibs were pretty chaotic, but it seemed to kind of fall away. Let's see what he does at St Johnstone. But you know, Jamie Murphy was a decent player. Stevie May's still there, so you know they've got players. They signed a boy. They signed an international this week from a boy who'd been at Chelsea. He'd come through the Chelsea ranks, and I don't think he ever got to a point where he was troubling the first team squad. But he came through at Chelsea. Had Trinidad international. They signed him this week, and I can't remember the boy's name. So they've signed him. So they've got some new players. It's the start of the season. Like you say, I expect they're coming to try and get a point, coming to frustrate. make life difficult for us. I tell you who they signed in the summer, and this is going to make you feel old, Colin, right? I mean, even though you
again,
I was going to say, even though you are visibly losing weight in front of us, like you're like broadcasting from a sauna, this is going to make you feel old. They signed Bobby Daly in the summer, who is the son of Christian Daly.
You are kidding me on.
No, I'm not.
You know something? I've already had this with Nicky Clark. I used to call Nicky Clark Nicky's son of Sandy.
Yeah.
Aye, that's what I used to call him. Nicky's
but
son
to be
of
fair, Sandy
you know
Clark was playing, in the 80s.
Yeah,
Christian Daly was playing
for us about 12 years ago.
Well, I was going to say, Christian Daly feels like he was playing fairly recently, and at a decent level. Well, Christian Daly's son signed for St Johnstone. They're 18 years old, signed for St Johnstone in the summer. I don't know if he's close to the first team or whatever, but I have to say, when I read that, I did think, oh, jeez, that's grim.
I feel old every day, John, and you've just added to that.
Well,
that's
my Friday night job, John. I've depressed you further. So
it's funny you say that, feeling old thing, because my mate got in touch with me the other day because Ben's son is fighting Eubank's son. They've announced that. Aye, so my mate's into
Nigel
boxing.
Ben's son.
Aye, so Nigel Ben's son is fighting Chris Eubank's son. My mate's, that'll be some fight, and I was like, I've still got the ticket. I was at the original, like really? Nigel Ben. I was at the rematch at Old Trafford.
Okay.
And I've still got the ticket, and so he's like, "Oh, Ben against Eubank, what a fight that'll be!" And I've like been there, mate, done that 30 odd year ago. Been there, done that. Wore the t-shirt. No interested. So again, another moment. It just feels like every day I get reminded how old I'm getting.
It's there you go, Ben against you. I didn't know that. Well, anyway, Bobby Daly. I don't know who he's fighting. Hopefully, nobody. He's in St Johnstone. I've forgotten even what we're talking about now. It will be. I'm expecting nothing but a defensive, very defensive formation. They'll try and steal something from set pieces. Try and hit us in the break. It's going to be down to us. It's going to be attack against defence. If we can get an early goal, they might need to open up, and we'll see, although I don't even think they will. I think they'll still sit until 10 minutes to go.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time it's the second goal that forces teams to start coming out.
Yeah.
So
it'll be a game where our ball players are expected to open them up. It's a game we're going to miss Aribo. This would be the kind of game where we miss Aribo, because this was the kind of game he could do something in. So I think we'll miss him in this game. So it'll be interesting to see if the guys who've come in, Lawrence, springs to mind. Kent needs to find a bit of form. Obviously been injured. He needs to find a bit of form. I don't expect Morelos to start, but I expect he'll get a run at some point, particularly if we're struggling. I expect he'll get a run at some point. Maybe Matondo, am I pronouncing that correctly? I haven't quite got the pronunciation of that 100%. So it'll be interesting to see who he puts at fullback, if the young Turkish lad comes in, or if he's going to stick with Barisic. I don't know. I'm unsure how that's going to go. I was actually surprised that he started him last weekend. Played him last weekend. I was a bit surprised at that. Again, we'll just have to see how that comes about. But it's going to be up to us. It's going to be warm tomorrow in Glasgow.
As warm as it is now.
I think it's maybe warmer tomorrow. They're talking about it tomorrow being the warmest day of this spell. So high 20s tomorrow. They're talking about in Glasgow, which is just as well we don't have Chris Burke playing for us anymore, because he would not make it through the day.
I'll just need to try and remember not to wear a grey t-shirt then. So on the squad, it's Gio was speaking about it today. We do seem to be in like a decent position. No major sort of injuries or new injuries anyway. On the sort of the back four, I've got a wee feeling Ben Davies might start tomorrow.
Yeah, I think when everybody's fit, I'm assuming that he is, second choice centre half. I'm assuming that him and Goldson are who are seen as being the partnership. That you can only assume. I mean, Sands. I went to the West Ham game and I thought Sands actually played pretty well when he came on. I thought he did. I thought he did quite well. Suter had struggled in the first half. I didn't think Suter looked great in that game, but it's only a friendly, so it's hard to tell. Suter then, I felt, had a tough game against Livingston. Again, nothing terrible, but didn't cover himself in glory. Sands has got his chance. He's done okay, but I don't think he's a long-term centre-half. I don't think that's I think he's going to be one of these kind of utility players that, maybe plays a game in midfield, maybe plays a game in defence, depending, where we need somebody. I think the feeling that's who Sands is. I don't think he's a long-term centre-half. I think if Davies is fit, I think he'll start. I agree.
On Sands, I find it really interesting that, the coach for the USA international team has said, if he doesn't get game time, he won't be part of the squad and for the World Cup. And that Sands is not looking for a move. That suggests to me that the boy is confident that he's going to get game time. So, where would you see him? Centre half or midfield or utility? Just whatever he's needed, he'll slot in there.
I mean, I don't think he's. I feel like it's a bit dinosaurish, but I don't think he's tall enough to be a centre half, a full time centre half. Now I know there are exceptions to that rule, and we focus on
Roberts.
There are always exceptions to that rule. But I'm not convinced Sands' future is at centre half. I think he is more likely moving into midfield and some kind of deep lying midfielder. He's a decent passer of the ball. I think that's probably the one thing about him that struck me. He's a decent passer of the ball. He's a competitive kid. He can make a pass, but physically, I'm not sure he's a centre half. I think he is going to be. He's a utility player. He's going to be one of these guys that no one's entirely sure his best position. Christian Daly. No one's entirely sure what his best position is, but managers will like him because he can play a variety of different roles. He's a good guy to have in your squad. But, I think if every centre-half was fit, I think Davies and Suter are ahead of him, and probably Hollander as well. But don't be surprised if Sands plays, 30 games this season. Just plays 10 in one position, 10 in another position, another 10. Don't be surprised if that's how it works out.
He certainly seems confident that he's getting game time because, his World Cup place is up for grabs here. And, he, as I said, he seems happy to stay at Ibrox. So I think he's confident he's going to get game time. Yep. Moving on to things off the park a wee bit, John. I was reading this week that the St Johnstone fans, who, they always bring huge numbers to Ibrox, they're boycotting tomorrow because of the huge ticket prices. Now, I am not going to, for 1 minute, try and defend ticket prices because I'm a big advocate of ticket prices being too expensive. I think, everyone talks about the game down south being ridiculous. I think even up here, some of the prices are pretty much ridiculous. I think we're overcharged for games pretty much every week. So I agree with the sentiment, but it's the hypocrisy that I'm going to talk about here because the last away game I went to, me and my son managed to get tickets for Perth, just the season sort of pre-COVID, and we were £30, and that was like 2-3 seasons ago. So £60 for myself and my, I think he was like 14 at the time, 13, 14-year-old son to get into a football game. I think they've got a bit of a cheek. I think maybe they need to look at their own club first before they start challenging other clubs. Although, one thing I will say, I think this kind of thing probably doesn't help the wider fan base in terms of every football club. I think this is probably one issue all supporters should unite on, but they don't. They just pick on certain clubs and say, Rangers are charging us this, Celtic are charging that. No one actually sits down and goes, you know what, guys, maybe we should have a sort of unified movement here and discuss seriously and like adults ticket prices so that we're not all being overcharged.
Yeah, I mean, do I have sympathy for St Johnstone fans being overcharged? I mean, what's overcharged? Are they paying more than, they paying more than us? Are they paying more than Rangers fans have to pay again? I don't know. Do you know what they're charged?
I think it's £30 they're getting charged. Right. So they're charging the equivalent to what St Johnstone charge Rangers supporters when they turn up. What I mean? And St Johnstone are one of the worst, when it comes to prices for away games, they're horrific.
Yeah. I mean, the structure of Scottish football, the finance of Scottish football means clubs make quite a lot of money from the gates. The percentage of our overall turnover for a lot of Scottish clubs that comes through the gate is significantly higher than it is in most other leagues, where TV money is the bigger thing. So from that perspective, that's St Johnstone fans can boycott as many away games as they want. It's slight bloody difference to what teams do, and their support. And I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but their support's not big enough that anyone's actually going to fairly notice that. Let's be quite frank. St Johnstone don't take a big travelling support anywhere. So fine. They're making a point. They're saying a thing. Fine. Good luck to them. It's the clubs that agree these prices. It's go and talk to your own directors.
Yeah.
Go and talk to St Johnstone's directors, who I'm assuming are fairly, are people in Perth that you can actually make contact with and say, you know what, how about the next meeting of all the clubs, you sit down and agree pricing for away fans, because it's the clubs that set this, and the clubs set minimum pricing. Because there have been clubs in the past who've said, "Oh, I'd quite like to, we'd quite like to do, a $5 a game or something," and the other clubs have said, "No, you can't do that, because then the pressure's on us to do a $5 a game. We don't want to do that." So it's fine. And on top of that, as a Rangers supporter, folk have claimed absolutely blue pound, and I've never heard any St Johnstone fan ever complain about how much Rangers fans are getting charged for going. So I have sympathy, but it's limited. It's limited. I'm not going to join their vigil. Let's say that. I can't see me joining the Fair City Casuals or whatever they've called themselves, and holding hands and singing Kumbaya with them. Fine, don't come. That's your choice. Rangers fans have boycotted away games in the past to make a statement. To make folk understand that they're unhappy about things. I hope their own club recognises it. I hope their own club does something about it. I won't be holding my breath. One thing Scottish football teams, Garen, all seem to agree on is ignoring supporters.
Well, I'm with you. I agree wholeheartedly with what they're saying, but I've got limited sympathy. I've always got limited sympathy for a support base that includes Stuart Cosgrove. My sympathy will only stretch so far. There are that pricks involved, but yeah, it's the hypocrisy. No, as you pointed out there, no one gives a toss when Rangers supporters and that mob across the road, to be fair, are getting absolutely fleeced at away games week in, week out. No one bothers. So yeah, I agree with them, but like you, John, my sympathy is extremely limited. Right, final point, John, before we wrap up. Celtic are playing on Sunday, so it's probably the first time of the season where we've got the chance to get the points and go ahead. I think they're a goal in front of us at the moment, so they're top of the table on goal difference. We win tomorrow, we go top, and it's always tricky going to Kilmarnock, plastic pitch. Celtic have had troubles there in the past, so we puts a wee bit of pressure on them, so it's vital to get those 3 points.
Yeah, I saw this be talked about about qualifying for the Champions League. That if we don't qualify for the Champions League and we end up in the Europa League, then we'll be playing Sundays.
Sunday, yeah.
We'll be playing Sundays, and the chances are they'll be playing Saturdays. And what does that do to the dynamic of the league? It does two things. Obviously, if we lose on Saturday or drop points on Saturday, then it gives them a lift ahead of their game. If we win, it puts a bit more pressure on them. You're 100% right. I think we all expect the league to be fairly tight this season again. And as such, winning against St Johnstone at home is essential. You have to win against St Johnstone at home. These are not games you can drop points in. Every team has a bad result at some point. They have a Ross County. They have a bad result during the course season. You just can't have too many of them. And tomorrow would not be a good day to drop points because, like you say, Celtic will go into the game at Kilmarnock, hot favourites as they should. Kilmarnock haven't started the season particularly well, but it's a horrible pitch. It will be another hot day. You never know. You just never know. But if we don't do the business the day before, it won't count for anything anyway. It'll just be seen as an opportunity missed. So it is important, and I think it does give you a slight psychological boost to have done your job, get it out of the way. On top of that, dropping points tomorrow, what does that do for Tuesday? What does that put the frame of mind of the support in? What does that put the frame of mind of the players in? You don't want that. You want to get a positive result. Maintain momentum, keep building up that sharpness. Because I think we have to be honest. Tuesday game's probably more important. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I think obviously you want to win the league, especially the way the coefficient is at the moment. But in the week coming up, I would argue the PSV game's more important.
Yeah, I think so too. But it won't be a lot of fun in the pod on Sunday night if we drop points on against St Johnstone, and it's just a sticky team. I mean, they're a sticky team. It won't be a fun game to watch. It'll be a scrappy affair, I expect, unless somebody can do something. Be interested to see if Tillman starts. Obviously, he got most of the headlines on Tuesday, but aside from his goal, the boy can play. He's only 18. He's not played a lot of football, but there's clearly ability there. I guess you don't come through Bayern Munich's academy. You don't get plucked from another continent and brought over if you're a dummy. They obviously saw something. The boy can play. He's got cracking physique on him. A big lad. He'll be a.
He's got a good spring on him as well.
Absolutely. That photograph, when you see them, you think,
I know.
Is that even natural? It's absolutely. But we've not bought him to win the ball of the year. You've brought him in for something else. So it'd be interesting to see him. We haven't seen much of him. So it'd be interesting to see him, see what's there. It looks like, I don't know if did you see the interview with Lowry?
I didn't know. No,
an interview.
I'll tell you, he was sort of saying that, he feels he might be getting pushed down the pecking order a wee bit. It's getting a bit tougher to get in the first team.
Aye. I mean, basically, that's what he said. He was asked that. He scored the winner for the B team the other night.
Yeah.
And obviously, having come back from injury, he's starting to play games again for the B team, which he still qualifies to play for. And he scored the winner. He scored the only goal of the match, actually, a free kick. And he was asked about, does he think he can get back into the first team? And he said, well, it's down to the manager. It was a fair answer, that's down to the manager. I'll just have to keep playing and hope the manager sees me. He said, but I watched Tillman. I watched Tillman the other night. It's going to be hard getting into that team.
Yeah.
And which I thought was quite a nice thing to say. But he obviously sees him in training as well, and it might not be a bad thing for the boy to realise, this isn't a gimme.
Yeah.
You might have looked good towards the end of last season. You might have been a player that all the support were looking at thinking, well, I'd love to see us do something with this lad. But that's not how it works at Rangers. You're as good as your last game. I mean, Richard Gough used to say you're as good as your last pass. And there's some truth in that. But, you can have all the potential in the world, but when your chance comes, you better take it, because you might not get a second chance. It's not how it is at Rangers. So,
absolutely, John. I will. Anyway, I think that's probably about us, John. We'll wrap things up there. Before we finish up, I'll mention our final partners, which is Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company. They've been a big commercial partner of Rangers for many, many years. They also have a stunning new hospitality area within the main stand. For information on how to book that, you should contact Rangers at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. If you want to find out more about Forrest Precision Engineering, visit their website at www.forrestpreciseeng.com. Easy for me to say in a 40-degree heat there, John. Right, so as I said, we'll wrap things up there. Big thanks to John for his contribution as always. Great stuff. We were live this afternoon. I was going to say tonight. We were live this afternoon, but the pod will be available to download and stream on a variety of platforms from tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all the usual places. As I said, a big thanks to John. We'll have the show out on Sunday night, obviously covering tomorrow's game at Ibrox. I think Scott's hosting that. I can't remember who the guests are. Apologies, very amateur mistake there from me. In the meantime, get yourself onto the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. I'm away to cool down because I'm absolutely roasting. I am literally melting here. And until the next time, bye for now.